Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me for another episode here on my YouTube channel. For those who have been following along, you may have noticed I took a little bit of a break in October, and that's because it was quite an extremely busy month for me. Now, as we have Halloween behind us and look to the holidays, I really have had some time to sit down and reflect and wanted to share those reflections with you in the coming episodes. And so you'll notice that the next couple episodes might be a little bit of a deviation from the regular content, but will still be useful. Hopefully you'll still get something out of it, and then we'll go back to our normal informational sessions. So the first item of business, or the first order of business, is going to be podcast interviews. And I say that because in the last 4 months, I have actually done 18 podcast interviews. 18 in 4 months is almost one a week, almost. And so really the question I get asked a lot by my colleagues is why? Why would you do, as a fertility doctor, podcast interviews? Don't you feel like you're taking away from the science? And what I explain to them, and what I'm going to explain to you, is that infertility for me is so much more than a job. It really is a passion, it's a calling. And what I have come to find is that there is a really large portion of the population that has zero knowledge and zero background information on what it means to have infertility, to go through the infertility journey, whether or not you decide to pursue testing and treatment. And finally, what does family building look like for those patients? And so for me, it was really important to get out there and provide information for a couple of reasons. The biggest one is because I want to change the conversation. If you ask me today, what is my big, hairy, audacious goal? My BHAG. My BHAG is really to change the conversation around fertility and specifically around ovarian aging. I want women to have the benefit of that information ahead of time so that they can learn, educate themselves, and plan accordingly. You know, some of the interviews I did, people would ask, well, are you suggesting that we all freeze our eggs in our 20s? And of course, that's not the message. The message is, were you aware that there is a biological clock? Were you aware that above the age of 35, there's a very real and significant decline in fertility? And when we talk about that decline, what we're talking about is the quantity and the quality of the eggs that we're working with. Did you know that after age 40, those numbers become much more dramatic? Did you know that women who have been trying for over a year, if they are under the age of 35, should see a specialist for an evaluation? But if they're over the age of 35, that time frame actually diminishes to 6 months. Did you know that there are other reasons other than time of trying when you may be warranted to see a fertility specialist? For example, if your periods are not regular, you skip 2 or 3 months at a time. If your periods are extremely painful and you're having to call out of work, or you can't be intimate with your partner because of pelvic pain, and all the while trying to conceive. These are all reasons that you would want to see a fertility specialist sooner than the 6 or the 12-month mark, purely based on age alone. Did you know that there is actually a way to time intercourse using an ovulation predictor kit, which works for most women who are having regular monthly menses, and that this allows for baby-making sex to occur during the time of ovulation, and for the rest of the month to really be dedicated to intimacy and connection between the two partners? Did you know that most insurance plans do not cover a diagnosis of infertility when it comes to testing or treatment? There are very few states in the United States that cover that, and therefore this is something that most people may want to plan for. A couple of the interviews that I did were on finance podcasts. One was Inspire Wealth, the other one was RevMD. And people were like, well, what is a fertility doctor doing on finance podcasts? Well, guess what? If people knew about the fact that treatment wasn't covered, maybe they would consider planning for it. Maybe they would consider saving for it in the same way we save for a big trip or a house purchase. These are all things that are important just to be aware of, just have the knowledge, have the information. The more information you have, the better. And so when I look back and say, all the podcasts that I have done in the last 4 months or 5 months, I should say 5 months, have really been geared towards an audience that targets reproductive age women. And my reason for that is because I want them to be aware that this is a national problem. 1 in 8 couples in the United States will suffer from infertility. According to CDC data, it's somewhere between 10 to 13%. Now, if you work in healthcare, there was actually a survey published last summer that 1 in 4 female physicians struggles with their family building journey. 1 in 4. What other disease out there do you know that is so common as that? And also, we know that 1 in 4 women will suffer a loss in their lifetime. It is much more common than people think. So when you think about infertility, when you think about pregnancy loss, it's really not an abstract thing. If you're in a group of female physicians, there's more than 4 of you, 1 of you is probably having difficulty with fertility. If you're part of the general population and you have a group of girlfriends, let's just say from high school, well, 1 in 8 of you is probably having issues with fertility. 1 in 4 of you has probably suffered a loss. So these are all really common, really important stats for people to be aware of and be proactive about and plan their life so that they don't have to look back and wish, I wish I would have known sooner. I wish I would have planned. I wish someone would have told me. And that is why I have done as many podcasts as I have done. And that is why I will continue to do as many podcasts as will have me, because I do believe that this message is important. Knowledge is power. And the more knowledge you have, the better you can be prepared for what life may throw your way. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to comment if you've listened to one of my podcast interviews and if it has helped you in any way. I look forward to chatting with you again next week. Stay tuned for more as we navigate the reflections of my last month of life. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.